Good. So, love, big topic. Um, and of course, we looked at body last week, and people have asked if we can do more of that over time, which we will. But of course, everything we do is about our body because it is our receptor, our perceiver of everything, all our senses, as I mentioned before, when I was talking about ethics the week before that, so 2 weeks ago. Well, the first precept, the first thing is love, with deeds of loving kindness. So it's the highest principle, love, for any human. It's totally central to being human. Love, we know it's an essential need along with food and shelter. And the more we sort of allow it for ourselves, and that we can develop intimate and strong, meaningful relationships of all sorts, lovers, friends, families, even strangers, just, these simple intimacies that are happening at the moment, just as you walk around, if you're, connecting. It's interesting. There's all levels of it if we're open to it rather than closed. Sort of focusing on love is the best thing we can do. Or that's my experience. Because abiding in loving kindness, it leads to beauty. It just leads to a more beautiful life. You're just more open. Also, dwelling sort of in loving kindness leads to freedom. It's just freedom from feeling trapped and not connected and separate, and like you go with people and it's more spacious, and we open up. It's lovely, sort of open up and go towards. Whereas the opposite, violence, harm, killing, it just squashes you up, up a corner and closes us down. And so because that's the other end of the precept is, you sort of harm and killing and violence, is against love. I mean, it's just obvious what we want to do. But, we move around in that a lot. In any hour we can do that. I was out running this morning and, one of my feet landed on a snail. I didn't mean to. I was just not looking at where my feet were. I was, which you don't all the time. But I felt pained by that. And so I did kill something. Yeah, and that's the way things are. But it's tricky to the degree one can be aware of everything and the harm we're causing, and that's why another subject that people are asked to explore is ecology and how we harm the planet just by depending what we buy. I found yesterday somebody sent me the ecological something magazine online, and found out that Swedish glass ice cream, which is vegan, which I absolutely love, is the worst one I can buy for the effects on the planet. There's about 20. I didn't know there was so many, but I've got to buy Booja Booja. Apparently, it's just so much better, for the planet, and yet Swedish glass seems to harm a lot. Well, oh dear, I've still got 2 tubs in my freezer. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish them, but it's like it's just often education in those things. I just didn't know. So yeah, it's how can we, love as much as we can, all things. Well, firstly, we have to start. I have to start with me. It's always to the degree that I love, accept myself, and forgive myself. That's the degree that I can then love, accept, and forgive others. Because, relationships, connections to others is one of the trickiest areas of our life, I would suggest. Not always straightforward, is it? Whether that, that's to lovers or family or friends or neighbours or whoever. It can also, of course, be the most valuable, sort of meaningful area of our lives. and we need all types of people, all types of relationships in our lives. Yeah, it's sort of like it's just such a natural human need. And how can we enjoy this rich, wonderful world of other people? And the more we really don't let our low self-esteem, which I think is the biggest poison in our society as being a human, is we're often knocking ourselves. We wouldn't let our friends and family talk to ourselves like sometimes we talk to ourselves, to like internally sometimes. It's sort of like, yeah, we really need to accept ourselves and forgive, because I'm not perfect, and none of us are, and that's fine. It's like, it's just beautiful in a sense that I've always got something to work with. I mean, one day, hopefully, however many lifetimes, I might evolve that I don't, but actually that's not how it is. That's not how it is. And if I don't really accept the frailties of other humans, I'm not going to enable myself intimacy and love. It's so often we meet people, we make friends, or we meet a man, and we start sort of hoping that there's going to be a relationship, whatever, and we really love aspects of them. We're sort of like really drawn to them, but then we can spend a long time, a lot of energy in trying to change them. Trying to make them like me, or not, like that. It's well, it's interesting when you start to look. That's so often what we can be doing, but actually, reality is that we are all different. We are all unique, and that's really educational. I've learned a lot through that. So when I was 23, I went out with my first long-term boyfriend, James, and we were together 8 years. And well, James, when I first met him, I thought, oh, I don't don't like you. It was sort of, it was a very different class to me, a much sort of higher class, and just finished university, and he loved rugby and cricket and Gilbert and Sullivan, and that was not. I sort of love the sound of music and disco dancing, and no surprises maybe. But anyway, I learned a lot, through going to rugby matches. I learned a bit about the rules, but it was nice watching those men, of course, running around the pitch. That was what I was going for. Cricket, I never quite got the hold of. I was always a bit bored, but you take a good book and it's wonderful. And actually I did learn to enjoy Gilbert and Sullivan, and James. I did certainly open his mind to things he wouldn't have been doing. And actually, to get him dancing on the floor, freeing his body, was good for him. Not that he thought it at the beginning, but so in a way that it becomes rich through all that variety and difference. And had I wanted, and I sort of think I learned from that. I wasn't following any particularly spiritual path or anything at that point. Actually, he was vegetarian, and he was definitely leaning towards Buddhist stuff, but wasn't like really involved in anything. But yeah, I learned, and actually that enabled me to grow and accept him, and actually I didn't have to like what he liked, and actually I've learned in life, real love is allowing the other person to do their freedom, and also I often say I don't want another half. I often hear this statement, my other half. I think, oh my God, no. I want to be a whole person, and I want a relationship with a whole person. Thank you very much. Who's got all the aspects of themselves. I think so often when you see in life a couple who've been together years and years and years, whether it's straight, gay, any sort of couple, and the other one goes, and they're just totally lost. It's really sad and painful. and just totally lost, because there have been another, the other half has gone. They haven't retained, friends of their own, or almost their own identity is gone. And it's a choice, and not sort of particularly, it worked for them to a degree, but it's just interesting seeing. And then, well, we have to choose for ourselves, don't we, as to what, how we want to be. And so I've definitely learned core is love myself, accept myself, forgive myself, and then I can freely love, accept, and forgive others. And then we're more beautiful if we can do that. Really, we're able to be more loving. We're more attractive if we're there's a flexibility rather than a tightness. It's sort of it just opens up more possibility. Sort of genuine love and kindness is so attractive. Open, well, it's open-handed generosity. It's open-handed. It's not you've got to be like this, But of course, if they're unkind and unpleasant and whatever, well, of course we're not going to, but then we can have communication. We can talk, and we can share our different perspectives and not be frightened of saying what is going on within our world. Because so often I think with intimate relationships, particularly with boyfriends, husbands or whatever, sometimes it can be in certain relationships, they're the last person we tell of what really is going on that's really important. We've maybe talked to a good close friend or something, and I think that's really a shame. Because again, I think love, real love, there has to be total trust, total openness, and to explore all that. And all that needs to come from me. It's all about me. It's not about, in any way, the way I love myself and sort of value, and then having that gives me more courage, more confidence, and more knowing that actually real communication creates greater love, greater intimacy, greater depth. And then there's nothing getting in the way. So often things can get in the way. And then we don't need to defend ourselves at every turn. Because I think defensiveness isn't attractive, is it? Whether it's by words or actions or thoughts, or sort of actually physically isolating ourselves, taking ourselves away, keeping separate, therefore keeping love, intimacy away from ourselves. And this is sort of, friendships as well, and family, not facing with love, whatever. Because things are sometimes tricky, so sometimes they're really lovely, but we get it all in this area. And the more loving we are, that we then attract what we need, because we actually don't need it in the same way, because we're feeling abundant and loving about ourselves. This is why it's so important that it's the first stage of the metabaths to work with. And I know some people often, when they're talking about it, don't find that stage easy. But we then attract what we need, because we actually don't need it. We're not desperate. And of course, we know desperation isn't, it is quite unattractive. Whereas love is so attractive. It's beautiful. Sort of a human who is sort of centered together, integrated, kind, loving, thoughtful, helpful, able to accept difference, able to forgive, is beautiful, because it's real. It's not a fairy tale. It's sort of not an illusion. And I think I've definitely thought in my earlier days that actually it had to be perfect. And if they weren't, I went and looked elsewhere or something. And of course, actually, there's beauty in the imperfection, if one knows how to maneuver that with love and acceptance and forgiveness.